everybody. My name is Ashley, and today I want to talk about something that I know every single one of you is going to relate to. Authority. You know, like your parents, teachers, coaches, small group leaders, bus drivers. Do you have a hard time? Do you like when people tell you what to do? Or is it just me? Go clean your room. It's time to go to bed. Run 5 laps. Lunch detention. Have you ever wanted to respond like, says who? Or says who? Or says who? Who likes authority? Let's ask Siri. Siri, do you like authority? The volume's not on. Siri, do you like authority?
This is about you, Ashley, not me.
Siri, who's your authority?
I forget.
It's yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure I understand.
Hang on, I have an idea. It's kind of like this. I follow along and I lead the way. In middle school, you're kind of like stuck between these two. You're not totally in charge of your life. You can't make every decision for yourself. But if we could, we would want to lead the way, right? Our lives would be better. We would be in charge of our decisions. We know better anyways. But somehow we're stuck between I follow along and I lead the way. Up until this point, as a kid, your parents tell you what to eat, when to go to bed, when you have to go to school. And we're living in between these two things, is I follow along and I lead the way. Let me share a story about a time that I interacted with an authority figure. I was in school and we were given this assignment to write a persuasive speech on any topic that we wanted. And so I was like, great, I have a wonderful idea. So we had to submit them to the teacher. And when I did, she was like, I don't think teenagers need to know about that topic. And I was like, yeah, they do. I think so. And she was like, I don't think that they do. You need to pick a different topic. So I went back to my seat and I sat there and I was like, well, what do I want to do? And I'm like, well, you know what I should do? I should totally do my speech on this topic anyways, because I should persuade the teacher why it's important for teenagers to know about this topic. And so I did, got up in front of the class a couple weeks later, gave my persuasive speech, and it was really good, but she gave me an F, and she called my parents. And she called a meeting with the principal and my parents. It didn't turn out that well for me, and apparently that wasn't the right decision, but I really wanted to talk about it. So the point of the story is, don't do that. Chances are you've probably felt this way, and maybe you haven't actually done what I did, but maybe you've wanted to, or you've thought about it. If we're being honest, I think we'd all probably say we still feel that way about some of the people in charge in our lives. Maybe you feel like you know better than your teachers at school. Maybe you feel like you shouldn't be bossed around so much by your coaches. You play, they don't. Or maybe for you, it's your parents. You don't understand why they're so strict. Or maybe it's your small group leader who always seems to be telling you what to do or how to live or what you're not doing right in your life. And instead of having to listen to them, you feel like you should be the one calling the shots. You should be the one leading the way, not following along. I know you've been told your whole life that you need to honor authority. Obeying and respecting those who are in authority are big parts of what it means to honor someone. But it can also mean we follow their lead because we trust that they know what's best for us. And it means that we seek out their advice and go to them for direction when we aren't sure what to do in our lives. The problem isn't that we don't know what to do with authority. The problem is that actually doing it, actually honoring and respecting them, is really hard to do. And when we're stuck between following along and leading the way, we feel a lot of tension. Why do you think that is? Well, I think one reason honoring authority might be hard is because you're in middle school. You're not kids, but you're also not adults. And in this phase of your life, you don't want to be treated like a child anymore. You want to make your own decisions. But it feels like the adults in your life aren't ready to give you that freedom just yet. You're stuck in this weird in-between. I think another reason that it can be hard is because maybe you feel like some of the authority figures in your life don't deserve your respect. Let's face it, not all adults always act like someone who should be in charge. And that makes respecting their authority even more difficult to do. For some of us, it's that you really do think you know better than the authority figures in your life. After all, No one knows what it's like to be you better than you. Why should anyone else get to tell you anything about your life? Or honestly, maybe you just don't care about authority. You care way more about what your friends think than what anyone who's supposed to be in charge of you thinks. My point is this: we all have reasons that make honoring authority difficult. And I think that's because we feel like the authorities in our lives are trying to take away our freedom. And that's frustrating. But I have some good news and some bad news. You want the good news first or the bad news? Let's go with bad news. The bad news is that no matter how much we don't like authority, one thing is for certain. We'll all have some authority. We'll all have some sort of authority for the rest of our lives. I mean, that's not gonna go away. But the good news is honoring and respecting authority doesn't have to mean your freedom's limited. At least not forever. In fact, it can actually mean that a whole lot more freedom is coming your way. All right, the good news. The good news is we aren't the first generation who struggle with this idea of people telling us what to do. Or I guess the nice way to say that is people who have our best interest in mind. People have been struggling with authority for ever. There's lots of examples in the Bible. Let's look at one. Get out your Bible or your handy dandy Bible app and open to the book of Hebrews. Hebrews is in the second half of the Bible. We're gonna be in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 17. This is what it says. Have confidence in your leaders and submit to their authority, because they keep watch over you as those who must give an account. Do this so that their work will be a joy, not a burden, for that would be of no benefit to you. Have confidence in your leaders? I mean, I guess it starts there because apparently they didn't always have confidence or faith in the people in charge of them. They didn't think that their leaders really knew or wanted what was best for them. I mean, this letter not only asks these early questions. The letter not only asked these early Christians to not only have confidence in their leaders, but to submit to their authority, to follow along. I mean, do you know what that means for us? It means that we should respect the authorities in our lives, that we should follow along, to give up what we may want to do in favor of what they're asking us to do. And this is where it gets difficult. It's one thing to have confidence or respect for a leader, but it's a whole other thing to actually submit to them and do what they say with a good attitude. The writer of Hebrews told these early Christians that they should submit to their authority so that their work will be a joy, not a burden. In other words, think about the way you're treating your authority and consider how it makes them feel. Are you making it easier on them or harder? Do you make it joyful or miserable to lead you? Are you making it impossible or possible for them to do their jobs? We usually think only about the way authority figures, rules, and regulations make us feel. We don't often stop to consider that maybe the way we're responding to their authority makes them feel pretty terrible. I don't know about you, but I'd rather people say I'm a joy to lead than a burden. Because as the writer of Hebrews says, being a burden doesn't actually benefit us. It doesn't actually get us the freedom we desperately want. When we reject and disrespect authority, they end up tightening their grip around our lives. I mean, think of it this way. Let's say you use your phone after 10 p.m., but according to the family rule, all technology has to be off by 8 p.m. and maybe even in a drawer. Because you rejected this rule and you're on your phone at 10, your phone gets taken away, your freedom to use your phone is now limited, and that's the same with authority. Rejecting authority gets you grounded. It gets you an earlier curfew, lands you in lunch detention, earns you more laps after practice, and could even one day hit you with much bigger consequences. In other words, when we reject authority, we end up giving up the freedom we were hoping to find. But here's what I want you to know. Since I'm just a little older than you, just a little, honoring authority now brings more freedom later. I know this doesn't always feel true, but it is. Have confidence in your leaders and submit to their authority because they keep watch over you as those who have to give an account. That means they have to answer to somebody else. And do this so that their work is going to be a joy, not a burden, for that would be of no benefit to you. Think about the most rebellious kids you know. How much freedom do they have? The more and more they disrespect and disobey the authority in their lives, the less and less freedom they have, right? I mean, maybe they don't have a lot of rules at home, but when they act that way at school, they definitely lose freedom. Think about the most respectful kids you know. Those kids who get more and more opportunities to try new things, go new places, and hang out with new friends. Why? Because their attitudes and actions show they can handle it. They've earned that freedom. Honoring authority now brings more freedom later. I know that's hard for us in middle school to understand and believe that simply following the rules of our authority in our lives will get us more freedom in the future. I mean, we want it now. Why do we have to wait till the future? But as someone who's been where you are, I can promise you it's true. What can you do to ease the tension between wanting to lead the way in your life and follow along with authority? First, I'd say identify the people in charge in your world. The teachers, the coaches, the parents, small group leaders, and whoever else you would add. Of that list, who do you have the most trouble listening to or respecting? Don't say it out loud. Keep it to yourself in your head. Focus on those people first, and then do two things. One, say something. Change the way you speak to those people who have authority in your life. Instead of mentally or actually responding with a rude "says who," change your approach and your attitude. Change your tone and your words to show a little more respect when you interact with them. I mean, you can still disagree with an authority, but it's all in the way you communicate it. And second, do something. Change the way you treat the authority figures in your life. Change the behavior you have toward them. Try responding to their leading in a way that's different than you have in the past. Maybe instead of sulking when you get in trouble and not doing your homework, you simply apologize to your teacher and say you'll try harder next time. Or maybe instead of arguing with your parent when they ask you to take out the trash, do it with a smile. Little changes in how you treat authority can go a long way. And remember, it may not be easy all the time, but it's going to make your life better in the long run because honoring authority now brings more freedom later. Next week, we'll dive into ways we can navigate situations when following and honoring authority seems difficult. But for today, the last thing I want to share is this. Most authority figures have good intentions of leading us in positive, healthy ways, but some of you might be in situations where they are truly mistreating you. They're using the power they have in your life to abuse or harm you. I want you to know that isn't the kind of authority you need to submit to or respect. And just because they're in authority over you doesn't mean they're allowed to hurt or take advantage of you. So, if someone in authority is mistreating or abusing you, you can go to another trusted authority, a teacher, a parent, a coach, your small group leader, who can help you take the right steps to get out of that situation. And if you've already told an adult, I'd encourage you to tell another one. And if you need to have this conversation, I'd encourage you, talk to a trusted leader today in this place where it's safe for you to speak up. I hope you'll join me again next week because we're gonna talk about how to honor authority even when what they are saying or doing isn't that honorable. As you head out, I want you to think about this question. What authority figures in my life do I struggle to respect?